friends, Kevin Oster here at the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals in Rosemont, Illinois, in a favorite exhibit they have called the Barn Finds and Hidden Gems, right? So these are cars that were recently extracted from barns or just found that are in dire need of restoration, or maybe they're going to be left alone, we'll see. But I thought we'd take a quick walk through and see some of the cars that are here, because it is equally as impressive as the rest of the show. Starting off, a 70 Olds Cutlass W31 car. Still has the leaves and stuff on it from as it was found, you know, carburetor's off, but that's that high compression Olds 350 W31 motor. Very cool car. This one, you know, a lot of times the details are written on the windshield. You know, he's got his Hurst shifter, and this is that Oldsmobile outside air induction hood, it's called, the fiberglass hood. These are getting very hard to find and are very expensive. So if he restores this car, it will be very cool, because it's got a great look with the black stripes and the orange paint. Next to that one is a 1972 Pontiac Grand Prix SSJ, right? So the SSJ is, the Grand Prix, first of all, was an extended nose Pontiac A-body, very similar to the Monte Carlo. Hurst edition, so the black and gold, American racing wheels. SSJ, the J stood for John DeLorean, if I know that story correctly. But this one's cool. It's got the buckets, it's got all kinds of options, sunroof. A little hard to see, but that's a Hurst auto stick shifter in there, which allowed you to kind of click through the gears, even being an automatic. And this apparently was a General Motors executive vehicle at some point. Don't see those very often. Over here, 1971 Boss 351 Mustang. A couple years ago, there was a really nice corral of 351 Boss cars here. Didn't make a whole lot of these cars, but these were one of, if not the fastest car in 1971, believe it or not. This one's a 4-speed car. The Boss, of course, has the wing, the sport mirrors. It's on roller tires now, but there's the Magnum 500s that go with it, and of course that 351. 351 a lot of times was faster than the 429, being a little bit lighter weight, but very neat car. Cool presentation here. We've got a 70 Plymouth Cuda with its original engine and transmission underneath it on display, as found. Car was found with the engine out of it, and this is a 6-barrel 440. Looks like about HEMI orange for the car. The original shaker scoop car. Hockey stick stripe. I love the wide tires on Keystone, you know, wheels. This was probably a pretty good street racer back in the day. Skinnies up front. Imagine going into somebody's barn or building or shed and finding this car. You know, how cool would that be? Hurst Olds 68. These cars are really cool. You know, the gentleman's hot rod, power everything, and AC and all the fun stuff. Hurst dual gauge shifter. But you'll notice on this one that it's kind of rough on the outside, but like the dash is shiny and the gauges are nice and clean and the seats are nice, right? What's going on with this? Well, they're calling this one kind of a revitalization. You see that old 455 under the hood, which was a Hurst exclusive back in those days, because you couldn't get a 455 in a 68 Cutlass or 442, but it's been rebuilt and the suspension is new. So it's an interesting combination of mechanical restoration, interior restoration, but the outside still left as it was. And who knows, maybe someday they'll do the whole car, but that's kind of fun. Moving on, we've got a 69 Super B 446 pack car with a great story. Big and littles, 4-speed transmission. This car, the owner had seen this car a million years ago and left notes on it, and it got buried in a barn somewhere until persistence paid off. the owner passed away and his family found a Post-it note with this guy's number on it, and they called him and he was able to buy the car, and he says he's never selling it. Slotted mags, but a neat combination, you know. These things are cool with the vinyl top, bench seat, 4-speed, and of course that Super B stripe on the back, and a killer shade of green. And it's parked next to another Chrysler product. This looks a little rough for sure. We talk about a barn find, but this is a 69 Barracuda Formula S car. So the Formula S was a high-performance suspension V8 version of the Barracuda, and this particular one has a 340 under the hood, and it was a pilot car, meaning it was one of the first ones down the assembly line for 69 with this particular set of options. And the 69 convertible is pretty rare in its own, but a convertible Formula S pilot car, very cool. But it looks like somebody exceeded the limits of that high-performance suspension and maybe hit a guardrail or something along the way. One for the Chevy guys, 68 Chevelle. This one looks like it's actually been started in a restoration. They stripped some paint off and wrapped it in plastic so it wasn't rusting, but it's an SS 396 car. It looks to be blue originally, and maybe it'll go back that way. Another one for the Mopar guys, a HEMI Challenger. It's a 1970 car. Again, this one, the engine has been gone through. Looks to be in great shape. The rest of the car is next. Orange has the Mopar rallies. It's an automatic, and it looks like a buckskin interior. We're gonna wave to Mr. Ryan Brutt, who is the guy behind this display. Hi, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about you guys?
Doing awesome. Thanks for doing this again.
Oh, I'm happy to do it. You know, king of the rusty junk, can't go wrong.
The king of the rusty junk. Fantastic. All right.
When the rusty junk's a Superbird or a HEMI Challenger, I mean, I guess it could be worse.
That's right. Far from rusty junk. Speaking of Superbirds, here's a 70 Superbird. This one is originally lemon twist yellow, and it's partially stripped, like a restoration was begun, perhaps. But when you strip the paint off these, you can kind of see what makes a Superbird different from the regular car, because this plug gets installed where the original glass was. So the original window is bigger, and it came out, and then this went in, which provided a more aerodynamic profile leading into the wing, which is really cool. So you can't just put the wing on the car and have the Superbird. You need other stuff in the back. You also need different stuff in the front, right? So the fenders on these from the factory were from a 70 Dodge Coronet, and this one is kind of interesting because you can see there's no holes in the fender for the scoop that comes out, because this is a replacement fender for the car. This is a stock Coronet fender, but you'll notice that down here there's this extra piece of material that hangs down. On the actual Superbird, it doesn't have that because of the way the pointed nose comes out, and then the extension piece, you can see it on this side. So this would be the original fender with the holes for the scoop, and then down here you can see it doesn't have that extension to where the nose cone attaches. Just a detail if you're going to try and restore one of these cars. Finding those Coronet fenders is getting to be a chore as well. But speaking of aerodynamic Mopars, here's a 69 Charger 500 that somebody set up to be a drag car back in the day. Charger 500, again, was a NASCAR thing. Rear window doesn't have the inset with the columns like the stock Charger did. It was a sloping glass with a different panel back here to be more aerodynamic. This came before the Daytona wing car. This one being a drag car, big slicks. A couple of fun things on this car. I mean, it's rusty. We've got daylight coming through the fenders. The Charger 500, of course, also pushed the grille forward and the headlights flush with the front of the car instead of having that inset, again to have a better aerodynamic profile for high-speed super speedway use. But this car, believe it or not, runs and drives, and the guy drove it in here, so looks can be deceiving. Buzzing right along, this is a 71 GTX 6-barrel 440 car, pistol grip shifter, bucket seat. This was known as the fuselage design, with the bumper that kind of wrapped around, and these flush mounted lights, which were really advanced for 1971, but these cars are getting super popular. But the 440 is still intact, numbers matching car. More for the right on. So this 65 Ford was purchased by you?
Yes.
Your name?
Lynn Garrettel.
Lynn, thank you for bringing it out. So you bought this new in 65.
Absolutely, $2,700.
2,700 bucks. 2,700, yeah. So like $1 a pound, basically.
Something like that.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Very cool.
And I drove it for 30-some years, turned it over to him.
And this was your car.
My car.
This was just
And
a daily
well,
driver.
we shared it. I mean, those were the days when you didn't necessarily have two cars.
For sure, yeah. So this had to do everything. Had to put the family in it and take it to work and all that stuff.
Yep.
And so you must have liked it because you kept it.
No, actually, we sold it. I'm the son,
All right.
Andre Baratel. We sold it about 20 years ago, and to a guy, he used it and kept it all those years. He passed away, and his widow contacted me to get some more history on the car to sell it.
So how did she know that you guys had it? Was there a...
Well,
Just
her husband-
remembered selling
yeah.
it?
And he was a co-worker of mine here in Chicago.
I got you.
The car was out on the West Coast. They shipped it back, and yeah, when she decided she was going to sell it, she couldn't drive it, and I just bought my car back. I always wanted it back. It's a California West Coast car for most of its life.
How long was it gone out of your possession?
About 20 years.
20 years.
And yesterday morning was the first time I'd seen it in those 20 years. A friend of mine went and grabbed the car and has been stashing it for me.
So did it all come back to you after that 20 years? All the little touch feel points of the car?
I opened the door and I remembered the smell.
Yeah. The smell you tried hard to get rid of before, right?
Probably.
Well, that's super cool. You know, when a lot of times they get away and they're gone. So
Yeah, and the one thing about this is an 885,000 mile car.
I'm sorry, what?
885,000.
Did you do that?
I didn't do all of it. My husband did a lot of it.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Because he was a professor in Southern California and he was taking care of the family farming operations up in Northern California. So he was back and forth on I-5.
So he drove this thing a lot.
He was 6'6" and, well, about 300 pounds. And
Yeah.
there were only two cars he ever fit into in his life. This car, because he had the seat set back 6 extra inches for him when he bought it,
Yeah.
and this Ford Excursion.
There you go.
And when you're this size and you find a car that you fit into, you want to hang on to them.
So you remember purchasing this car new?
Oh, I certainly do. Downtown Ford, Sacramento. The salesman's name was Don.
That's so awesome.
Want more?
Yeah. Well, so my question was this on the showroom floor, or did you order one,
No,
or?
I believe we ordered it because we wanted the 289 engine. My husband said, I am not buying another car that I can't fix.
There you go. And it's a very simple engine, the
Very
289.
simple. In fact, he forced me to learn how to change the oil.
Ah, right on. Good. And was there a story behind the white?
I'm sorry, what?
The color white? You just like the white, or?
Absolutely. We only buy white cars.
Only by white cars. Well, congratulations on getting it back. That's a
Oh,
really
thank
cool
you.
story. Lynn, pleasure to meet you. Thanks for sharing some time with us.
Yeah.
Andre, thank you so much. Very cool. Great story. Love that. Really doesn't really, I guess barn find doesn't really qualify. Looks like it still runs and drives just fine. Another Mopar, Mr. Norm's Dodge sold. 69 Superbird. Mr. Norm's, of course, king of high performance in the Midwest for Chrysler cars and Dodge. This one, column shift, does have buckets, but good that it's been found. and hopefully this thing is going to be back on the road again soon. We saw a 68 Hurst Olds over there. We've got another one over here. They didn't make a whole lot of these. 500 and some, I think, is the total, but now we've got one. You know, Fred Flintstone brakes, but still has the buckets. These cars can be a little tricky to restore because they've got some unique pieces, mostly just generally a large combination of accessories and options. You can see this one, though, does not have air, just has heat. And of course, the 455 is gone. Power brakes are still there. This will be neat to get back on the road. As we make our way through, we got a 71 Challenger RT. Now this is a cool car. It's a 340 car, originally in yellow, but it's been painted several times. You can see that there's some green over here underneath and red oxide primer. This one literally came out of a barn, and the owner was telling me before that they've got most of the pieces, but they're still trying to search out the fender tags. But they've been going through boxes in this barn where this thing was and literally raking up dust on the floor and sifting through the dirt to try and find that tag to make sure that it's all there, what's supposed to be there. But very cool car. 71 Ford Torino GT, 351 Cleveland car. This one, the owner lives in Chicago, and it looks like a lot of cars from the Midwest. Little rusty, but one of the dirtier examples of the barn find section, because you know, people try to preserve all that look, and then a lot of times, like I said, these come back restored, which is really neat when they do. So we saw back there that Hurst Olds where the engine and interior were kind of restored. We have a similar situation here on a legit Z16 Malibu SS 396 car. This is a 65. These came in 3 colors, the yellow, red, or black. This one obviously being the yellow. And it looks pretty rough on the outside, but once again, you peek inside and he's redone the interior and the driveline has been redone. So this is, you know, another really interesting way to ride around comfortably in style on the inside, but surprised a lot of people on the outside. Of course, this had the Z16 option, big rear drum brakes, 396 engine under the hood, a lot of luxury things like an AM/FM multiplex stereo, the deluxe, you know, racing looking wheel covers, which are really awesome. Great cars. Only 201, I guess, were made of these. We've featured them on Muscle Car the week before. Always neat. This is one of those cars where if you're into Z16s, you end up knowing everybody who's got them because there's not that many of them. But it's a cool, tight-knit family. And kind of leading the pack in the front of the barn find display is a hemicuda, right? Black 1970 hemicuda. This car looks like, you know, really like you could drop the engine in it and take it for a drive. Again, big tires in the back, skinny in the front, slotted Krager aluminum mags. It's a black on black, black interior, the buckets, 4-speed car. A ton of potential here to get this one screaming once again. I don't know the story if the original 426 Hemi is still around or not, but here's something interesting too. We mentioned the fender tag over there. He has a paper copy of his fender tag taped to the inner fender, and the reason for that, a lot of people take those tags off because in the Mopar world, if you have that tag, you essentially have the car. If you got a legit tag with a 426 Hemi, that means that you could put that on a 318 car and fake a 426 Hemi. So people tend to lock those tags up so that they don't get stolen, especially if the car's been, you know, stashed in a barn or something, because that's the verification, that's the legitimacy. And the Chrysler products are great because you have that tag which shows everything that's supposed to be on this car, but it was just screwed down, so it was it's not like it was stamped into the steel. But then the last car up in front is a Nova. Very cool because it's a big block 427 Nova that happens to have a tie to Yenko. So Yenko Novas, most of them that we know of are the Yenko Deuce, small block cars. This one, clearly not. Big block car. I don't know the whole story on this one, but I do know that, so we got the Yenko badge up front, and there were some Yenko 427 Novas out there. This dealer, it does not have a Yenko Cannonburg, Pennsylvania badge on it. It's got Deal with Dale in Waukesha, Wisconsin. There were, I think, 17 different dealerships around the country that were affiliated to sell Yenko branded stuff. So this might have been one of those. It'll be interesting to find out more about this car. So I hope you enjoyed our quick little tour of the barn find section. I don't know all the answers on all these cars, but it's fun to follow the Muscle Car and Corvette Nationals Facebook page to see which ones are going to get restored that might be unveiled here next year or the year after. So I appreciate you hanging out with us, and we'll catch you next time.